with the biggest story of the day, and that is the news that DeWanna Bonner is no longer with the Indiana Fever. It was reported last night that DeWanna Bonner had no intentions on returning to the Indiana Fever, and then the news broke today that the Indiana Fever had indeed.
DeWanna Bonner just walked away from Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever in a shocking move that's rocked the entire WNBA. What looked like a calculated attempt to force her way onto a new team has completely backfired. Instead of finding a fresh start, she's now being quietly blacklisted across the league. Teams are refusing to touch her, she's lost out on a massive paycheck, and her once solid reputation is quickly unraveling. This is the dramatic downfall of a veteran who, in just a few weeks, went from admired leader to cautionary tale, and the instant karma that hit harder than anyone expected.
She said, "I want to sincerely thank the Indiana Fever for the opportunity to be part of the Fever franchise. Despite our shared goals and excitement heading into the season, I felt the fit did not work out, and I appreciate the organization's willingness to grant my request to move on, particularly at this point in my career. I wish the Fever great success as they continue to build around this dynamic group."
The news first surfaced in the form of a polished, corporate-sounding press release. The Indiana Fever stated they had granted DeWanna Bonner's request for a contract divorce. In her official statement, Bonner offered a carefully worded thank you to the organization and vaguely mentioned that, despite shared goals, the fit did not work out. She ended by wishing the young team continued success. On the surface, it all sounded like a professional mutual decision, an amicable separation. But behind that polished language was a much messier and more explosive reality, one that painted a very different picture of how and why things really ended. See story.
If another team claims her off the waivers, she gets her full salary. She gets her full salary if another team claims her off the waivers.
Behind the polished statement was a much harsher reality. A respected veteran walking away from her team in the middle of the season, igniting chaos in a locker room desperate for stability. This wasn't about a bad fit, it was a calculated decision to leave behind a group of young, impressionable players who had counted on her for leadership. With the spotlight and media frenzy already suffocating Caitlin Clark and the team, Bonner's exit left them to face it all alone. It casts Bonner in a deeply unflattering light and raises serious questions about her commitment and professionalism.
Thing that makes DeWanna Bonner look really, really bad. It makes DB look really, really bad. And it's the fact that she has told all other teams, other than the Mercury, don't sign her.
When a player's contract is terminated in the WNBA, they're placed on waivers. That means for 48 hours, any of the other 11 teams in the league can claim them and take on their full remaining salary. For DeWanna Bonner, a three-time All-Star with championship experience and a guaranteed $200,000 contract, being picked up should have been a no-brainer. She was essentially a free veteran asset, perfect for a playoff contender or a rebuilding team looking for leadership. But as the clock ticked, not a single franchise made a move. The 48-hour waiver window closed, and what followed was an eerie silence across the entire league. Bonner's situation exposed the truth. This wasn't a normal departure. Despite claiming the fit didn't work in Indiana, her exit was far from mutual or professional. Every team passed on her, not because she lacked talent, but because she had burned bridges. Insiders revealed that Bonner had directly contacted multiple teams, asking them not to claim her. She was trying to force her way to one specific destination, the Phoenix Mercury. She had essentially attempted to hijack the waiver process, controlling her next move as if she were an unrestricted free agent, despite walking away from a binding contract. The problem? Phoenix wasn't so sure they wanted her either. While they were her preferred destination, reports from league insiders say the Mercury front office was hesitant. They had finally built some chemistry with a young roster that was overachieving and buying into a new system. Bringing in a player who had just demonstrated an ability to quit mid-season was a risky gamble. Bonner assumed the Mercury would welcome her back with open arms, but the reality was far less certain. Beyond the reputational damage, the financial hit was just as brutal. By going unclaimed, Bonner forfeited her remaining $120,000 salary with Indiana. When she eventually signed with Phoenix, it was for a prorated veteran minimum deal, roughly $80,000 for the rest of the season. That's a $120,000 loss, self-inflicted, and all because she overestimated her value and assumed she could manipulate the league system. Worse still was the impact on the Indiana Fever and their young leader, Caitlin Clark. Bonner was brought in not just for her skills, but for her leadership. Clark was reportedly excited to play alongside her, working hard to build chemistry and lean on Bonner's experience. Instead, Bonner bailed mid-season, abandoning Clark and the young Fever squad just as pressure was mounting. It was a betrayal of trust, not just professionally but personally. There's now speculation that Bonner planned this all along. Sign with Indiana, benefit from the Caitlin Clark spotlight and increased media attention, then exit as soon as Phoenix cleared cap space. If that's true, it wasn't just unprofessional, it was outright manipulation. The lack of support from fellow players speaks volumes. In the aftermath, not a single notable WNBA figure publicly defended her. The silence was deafening. Even among players who understand the stress of the league, no one stood behind her decision. Bonner's actions have now set a dangerous precedent. If a veteran can quit on her team, avoid consequences, and end up where she wants anyway, it threatens the very structure of player contracts in the WNBA. Teams like Indiana, small markets that rely on stability, can't compete with glamour franchises if players are allowed to jump ship mid-season. Ultimately, Bonner got what she wanted, a spot in Phoenix. But she lost far more: her reputation, a significant paycheck, and the respect of her peers. In the process, she's become a symbol of what happens when personal priorities overtake professional integrity. In this era of player empowerment, her case forces the league to reconsider where the line lies between independence and accountability. And in crossing that line so publicly, Bonner may have permanently altered how she's remembered in WNBA history.